All right, diving in today, we're taking a deep dive into Anurag Sagar by Kirpal Singh.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's packed with these really vivid creation myths. And today, we're going to see if they can, help us understand the nature of reality a little bit better.
Yeah, what always gets me about these myths is how they take these really familiar figures like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva,
Right.
but then they present them in a way that totally, upends how we usually think about creation.
Exactly. Like right away, we've got Adya, the Divine Mother, and she's giving her three sons, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, this task, right? Go create the universe. But wait, there's more. Each son has to create a very specific type of being.
Okay.
We're talking egg-born, dirt-born, and seed-born.
Wow, I've never heard it categorized like that before.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think, right?
It's like, what's the difference?
Exactly. It's like a cosmic categorization system.
Yeah.
On the surface, maybe it's just a way to make sense of the incredible diversity of life out there, right?
Yeah.
But then you dig a little deeper and it starts to hint at these different sources of life, different processes, maybe even like different levels of consciousness.
Right. Like, where did we really come from? What does it all mean?
Totally. And it gets even wilder. So Brahma, naturally, he's curious about all this creation stuff. So he delves into the Vedas, and that's where he learns about this formless entity called Sat Purush.
And Sat Purush is a pretty heavy concept because the Vedas describe it as residing in this limitless space consciousness. Yeah. It's not something that, we can grasp with our five senses.
Right. It's like trying to wrap your head around infinity or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's just this completely abstract, mind-boggling concept.
It really is. And this is where things get really interesting because Brahma hits a snag. See, he's always believed that his mother, Adya, was the sole creator, right?
Right.
But now the Vedas are introducing this whole other being, this higher power.
A higher power than his mother.
Right. It's like he just stumbled onto a cosmic mystery,
It's like that classic conflict, right? Where you have this deeply held belief.
Yeah.
And then, bam, some new information comes along and challenges everything you thought you knew. And in Brahma's case, this conflict sends him on a quest to uncover the truth.
And Adya is not making it easy for him, let me tell you.
How so?
Well, she insists that she's the only creator, that Brahma doesn't have a father. But Brahma, he's determined, right? He's got to find this Sat Purush, even though he gets this warning. Sat Purush doesn't just grant an audience to anyone, what they call darshan.
Oh, it's like a super exclusive meeting.
Right. But that's not all. Meanwhile, Vishnu is sent on a similar quest, but he's using a very different approach.
What's Vishnu doing?
Okay, so get this. Vishnu tries to use the fire from the poison of Sheshnag. That mythical serpent?
Oh, wow, that's intense.
I know, right? But even with that incredible power, he fails to see Sat Purush. It said that Vishnu's body turned black from the fire, but he still couldn't even see his father's feet.
So even these incredibly powerful beings, Brahma and Vishnu, they couldn't grasp this truth with their senses.
Right.
What does that say about us?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? I mean, are there truths beyond our immediate perception, things our senses just weren't meant to grasp?
Right. It's like, is there more to reality than what we can see and touch and hear? It's a question that's been pondered for centuries, and it seems like Anurag Sagar is tapping into that very mystery.
It really is. And for Brahma, the answers finally come, but they come directly from his mother.
Okay, so what does Adya have to say?
Well, she finally reveals the truth about the creator, but it's not what Brahma expected at all. She tells him about Alak Niranjan, the unseen one.
The unseen one.
Yeah, and this is where things get really, really interesting.
How so? I mean, who is this Alak Niranjan?
Well, Adya drops a bombshell. She reveals that Alak Niranjan is actually Kal, the negative power. And this completely changes everything we thought we knew about creation.
Wow, the negative power. That's not your typical creator deity. It's like, instead of a benevolent, loving God, we have this concept of a darker force behind it all.
Exactly. It really flips the script. And then to make things even wilder, she introduces this whole concept of Shabd. Have you ever heard of that?
I'm not familiar with Shabd, no.
It's like a sound current, this divine vibration that emanates from the true creator. And get this, it can actually protect a mystic from the pull of worldly desires.
It's like a sonic force field against temptation.
Exactly. But it's more than just protection. Adya is saying that Shabd is about connecting with the source of creation itself. It's like a lifeline to this hidden reality she's revealing to Brahma.
It's like a way to tune in to the true frequency of existence or something.
Yes. And here's where it gets really real for us. Because Adya explains that humans, unlike other creatures, We have this unique ability to create new karma, what's called kriyaman, through our actions. It's a power that other beings don't have.
Wow, that's a lot of responsibility.
Right. It really makes you think about the weight of your choices, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it begs the question, if we have this power to create karma, to shape our own destiny, what does that say about our place in the grand scheme of things?
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
And to think all of this is happening in a universe that's absolutely teeming with life. Adya actually puts a number on it. And get this, 8,400,000 species on Earth.
8,400,000. That's mind-boggling.
I know, right? And wait, there's more. It's not just physical beings, but astral beings, too.
Okay, now we're getting into some really interesting territory. Astral beings, that suggests a whole other dimension of existence, something beyond our physical reality.
Exactly. And this isn't just a random detail, that number, 8,400,000. It actually echoes similar ideas found in Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, all about reincarnation.
Right, this idea that souls are constantly evolving, taking on different forms until they reach, well, us, human form.
It really makes you think about where we fit in, doesn't it? Are we just a small part of this vast, interconnected web of life, or are we something more?
It's like if even Brahma and Vishnu, with all their power, couldn't just, like, directly experience this truth.
Right.
Maybe there's, I don't know, maybe there are levels to reality that we can't even fathom.
It's a mind-blowing thought, for sure. And then there's that number, 8,400,000. It makes you wonder, what are those astral beings like? What does it even mean for something to be, I don't know, non-physical?
Right. It's like, what are they made of? Where do they exist?
Exactly. So many questions. But okay, for now, let's get back to Brahma. So he's learned about this negative power, this Kal, but he still doesn't really get it.
Of course, it's a pretty heavy concept to grasp. What is this negative power all about?
Right. And that's where things get even more interesting. Adya reveals that Kal is actually the one who created those 8,400,000 species. Yeah. But get this, she describes it as a deliberate act, something he did to help souls ascend to human form.
Hold on, so you're saying human form isn't the starting point? It's like the finish line of some cosmic obstacle course.
That's what it sounds like. It's like, we're the goal. It's kind of humbling and terrifying all at the same time, don't you think?
Yeah, it really throws a wrench in how we usually think about ourselves in the universe. We're not the center of creation, but rather like this one point on this long, winding journey of the soul.
Wow. Yeah, that puts things in perspective. But it still doesn't explain why the Vedas would try to obscure Kal's true nature. Why not just call him Kal from the get-go? Why use this name Satpurush instead?
That's the million-dollar question, right? What's the point of this whole cosmic cover-up?
Like, what's he hiding from?
Well, according to Anurag Sagar, it's all part of Kal's doing. He's intentionally veiled his true identity, kind of like he's using the Satpurush thing as a decoy.
So we're talking about a cosmic magician here, playing with smoke and mirrors on a universal scale.
Basically. But why go through all that trouble, right? What does he gain by keeping us in the dark?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something you'd do if you didn't have a reason.
Right. And that's where it gets really interesting to think about. It makes you wonder about the nature of power, of control. Is Kal trying to manipulate us in some way? Or is there a deeper purpose behind this whole cosmic deception? Like maybe he's trying to protect us from something we're just not ready to understand yet. Or maybe, just maybe, it's something we haven't even considered.
Okay, now my head's really spinning. And on top of all that, the book goes on to describe Kal's power in some pretty awe-inspiring, even kind of unsettling ways.
How so?
Okay, so get this. Kal's head is said to be in the seventh heaven, while his feet rest in the seventh world below.
Whoa, that's a pretty powerful image.
Right, it's like this isn't just some distant deity we're talking about. It's this force that permeates all of existence, something that's both majestic and terrifying at the same time, maybe even a little bit beyond our comprehension.
Yeah, it really makes you realize that creation, reality itself, it's probably way more complex, way stranger than we tend to think.
Totally. It's not all rainbows and butterflies out there, that's for sure.
Definitely not. And this whole concept of a negative power really flips the script on how we normally think about a creator. I mean, if the true source of everything is this shattery, almost unknowable force, well, it makes you reevaluate everything you thought you knew about the divine, wouldn't you say?
Totally. Throws a real wrench in the works. Maybe this whole search for the divine, for meaning, for ultimate truth, maybe it's not about finding some all-knowing, all-loving being in the clouds. Maybe it's about understanding this fundamental force that's woven into the very fabric of everything.
That's a really profound thought, and I think it cuts to the core of what Anurag Sagar is getting at. If Kal is less of a who and more of a what, how do we even begin to understand that?
Right. It's like, how do you wrap your head around something that exists beyond form, beyond our limited human perception?
Exactly. It really stretches the limits of what we can imagine.
It's like trying to grasp the Big Bang or infinity or...
Right. But here's where I think the concept of Shabd, that sound current that Adya talked about, becomes so important. If we can't directly perceive Kal with our senses, maybe we need to, I don't know, maybe we need to tune into a different frequency, a divine frequency, to connect with this source. It's like trying to hear the heartbeat of the universe.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Like picking up a signal from beyond our normal reality. It's a beautiful idea.
Right. And it really emphasizes the importance of inner exploration, of learning to listen to that quiet voice within. Maybe that's the key to unlocking a deeper understanding of reality, a reality that includes this force, this Kal, influencing everything from the birth of stars to the beating of our own hearts.
So we've got this cosmic force, Kel, this divine sound, Shabd, and this mind-boggling number of species, all painting this incredibly rich and complex picture of creation.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is. But where does it all lead? I mean, what are we supposed to do with this information? How do we even begin to process it?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? And I think Anurag Sagar would say that the answer, or at least part of it, lies in understanding the true nature of Kal, this force that seems to defy definition.
And we'll dive deeper into that right after this short break. So we're left with this force, this Kal, and we're trying to understand it, right? This thing that's like the engine behind the entire universe.
And you know, it's interesting because the book doesn't like shy away from Kal. It actually goes even further in describing, well, what Kal is.
Oh, okay. How so?
It says that Kal isn't, an entity in the way we usually think about it. Not a person, not a god with a beard on a cloud.
Right, yeah.
It describes Kal as a force, like an energy that exists beyond our normal understanding of form or shape.
Okay, so we're really going down the rabbit hole now.
Yeah.
So it's less about like praying to Kal or trying to, have a conversation with Kal.
Right.
It's more like Kal is just this fundamental force of nature.
I think that's a really good way to think about it. It's like Kal is to the universe what gravity is to us on Earth.
Oh, I see.
It's this underlying principle that influences everything, but not in a way that we can easily see or interact with.
Right. It's not like we can just, reach out and touch Kal.
Exactly.
It's more like it's just there, this presence.
A force that permeates all of existence. And it's both awe-inspiring and, I think, a little bit unsettling when you really think about it.
Definitely unsettling because, it's so different from how we normally think of a creator, It's not this benevolent, loving kind of deity.
Right. It really challenges our preconceived notions about everything.
Yeah, for sure. But what's really fascinating? This idea of a force rather than a being as the source of creation.
Yeah.
It actually pops up in like all kinds of cultures and belief systems.
It's true. You see it everywhere if you know what to look for.
Really? I'd love to hear some examples of that. What other traditions have this kind of concept?
Well, take Hinduism, for example.
Yeah.
Think about Shiva, also known as Mahesh.
What?
He's often depicted as this incredibly powerful, even fearsome force of nature.
Right.
Embodying both creation and destruction.
Yeah.
And that duality, that raw power, it really echoes this idea of Kala as a force that's beyond our simple classifications of, good or evil.
That's really interesting. Because we often try to put things in those boxes, right? Good or evil, right or wrong.
Exactly. But these deeper forces, they don't necessarily fit neatly into those categories.
And it's not just Hinduism either, right?
Right. You even see it in traditions like Islam, Christianity, Judaism.
Oh, wow.
You think about the angel Gabriel. Yeah. He's often depicted as this powerful messenger, a conduit for divine power, but not the source of that power himself.
Right.
And I think it speaks to this idea of a force beyond form.
Oh, wow.
A force that even these powerful figures are, subject to.
So there's definitely a pattern here.
Yeah.
Across cultures, across time.
Absolutely.
This idea that there's something bigger than us. Bigger than any one being, any one image we could possibly imagine.
It's humbling.
It really is. But also kind of exciting in a way. Like it opens up all these possibilities.
It does. And I think that's what Anurag Sagar is trying to get us to see. It's offering us a glimpse into a different way of understanding our place in the universe, our relationship to well, to everything.
It's a lot to process.
It is. It really makes you think.
So what do we do with this information? I mean, if this force, this call, is really the driving energy behind everything, how does that change how we live our lives?
That's the journey, right? Anurag Sagar has given us these glimpses, these hints, these alternate ways of understanding creation.
Right.
And I think it's up to each of us to take those glimpses and see where they lead us.
It's like instead of searching for a deity in a specific form,
Yeah.
we're meant to try and connect with this underlying force.
It's like instead of trying to meet the CEO, we're trying to understand the principles that the whole company is built on.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. Dig deeper.
Wow. Yeah, it's humbling, but also incredibly exciting. It's like this whole other dimension of existence is just opened up. But how do we even begin to wrap our heads around it?
I think it's a lifelong exploration, There's no easy answer.
Right. It's not like a quick 5-step process.
Exactly. But by engaging with these ideas, by asking these big questions, we're already on the path, I think.
So to our listeners, if the universe is driven by a force, not a figure, how does that change your perspective? What does it mean to seek understanding, to seek meaning, in a world where the ultimate creator might be beyond our comprehension? Those are some things to think about as you move through the world. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive.